Hello, and welcome to Ice is Slippery, an unserious podcast about hockey brought to you by 1.5 hockey fans. My name is Kate, and I'm a hockey fan.
And my name is Fred. I am half a hockey fan.
How are we doing this week, Fred?
We're good. I'm tired.
It's been an early morning for us here.
It has.
Well, I think we can just get right into the news so we can get on with our day. How does that sound?
I think that's good. I think you got a lot to talk about today.
I do. It's been a really busy week in the NHL.
All right. Sounds good.
Kicked off for me on Monday after the Rangers played the Devils. Rangers broadcaster Steve Valiquette found it very disrespectful that Jack Hughes tried to, let me check my notes here, score a goal on Igor Shesterkin.
Yeah, very rude of him.
Incredibly impolite.
Making him, yeah, what a stupid hot take.
Kids these days disrespecting their elders by trying to score goals during hockey games.
Oh my God, tried to embarrass them by scoring a goal.
That's what he said. He said specifically that Jack set out to embarrass Shesterkin because he, tried to score a skilled goal.
Unacceptable.
Unacceptable behavior. He should be thrown out of the league.
Yeah, I've never heard of that guy, but I did see a bunch of comments being like, what does this dinosaur know about hockey?
I guess he used to play it.
In the 70s, though, right?
He didn't look that old to me, but...
I think he's from the way back days before people were, good at hockey.
He did say he used to be a goalie, so all I took away from it is that he wouldn't have been able to stop that, or maybe even a basic shot, and that would have embarrassed him, so he projected really hard all over the place.
Yeah, I don't know what he was up to.
Jack Hughes didn't even score the goal.
No.
So it was just that he tried to embarrass him, and that was so scandalous. He said back in his day, people would have gotten beaten up over that sort of disrespectful behavior.
I think he's wrong.
I don't know. I didn't watch hockey back then. Maybe that was the case, but I'm as baffled by this as everyone else, including by Jack Hughes.
Yeah.
After the game, one of the reporters asked him and said, hey, Steve Valiquette had this to say about your goal attempt. And Jack Hughes said, I don't even know what that means. What does that even mean? Yeah, I don't even know what that means. Yeah. And that was really, nobody knew what that meant. It was incredibly stupid.
Incredibly stupid. Yeah. It's, I don't know. I've never come across a hot take like that. And he was trying to do what? A Forsberg goal?
Yes.
And it's not even that fancy. It doesn't look that crazy to me.
He just slowed down as he was approaching the goal and then kind of tried to put it in one-handed.
Yeah. It's like a deke back and forth and then slide it under the 5-hole. That's not that fancy.
Maybe it was fancy 20 years ago. I don't know, but
yeah,
I've definitely seen fancier.
Yeah, it's no Stankoven behind the back, or no Marchment spinorama backhand shot. He would have freaked out if he saw Marchment do that.
Oh my God. Absolutely. It was just one of the most baffling takes I've heard. And I've heard so many baffling takes. I watch a lot of hockey.
Yeah.
With a lot of hockey mans who say a lot of stupid things. So it was a really very strange start to the week. And I feel like it kind of set the tone for me a little bit.
And the NHL even clipped it and put it in their shorts, which is hilarious.
I think they said it was a devilish take.
Yeah.
It was completely bizarre. Nobody liked it. PK Subban was like, that's stupid. Which, and people tried to sort of say, well, I think the problem is that he's really frustrated with New York Rangers and he thinks they don't have a lot of fight and that they should be putting in some more effort and that should have put a spark in them. But that's not really what he said. He said that they should beat him up because he tried to embarrass Shesterkin.
Yeah.
People on Reddit were like, oh, I guess he should have just stopped and picked up the puck and handed it over and said, here you go, Mr. Shesterkin.
Jeez, yeah. Anyway, yeah, just absolute nonsense.
Absolute nonsense. Whenever I start to feel like I maybe don't know that much about what I'm talking about when it comes to hockey, I remember that guy and people like him get paid actual cash money to talk about hockey on television in front of people. I don't get paid cash money to talk about hockey. I spend so much money to watch hockey.
Right.
Between all of the various subscription services and game tickets and merch.
Yeah.
But I feel like I maybe know more than that guy.
I don't know. It's
or at least none of my hot takes are that stupid. And I have some stupid takes, and I'll probably get into them later on in this very episode.
Yeah. Dumb take.
But I think I'm allowed to have done takes.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody's giving me money for them.
No, exactly. No one's paying you.
Nope. So, yeah, Monday, clown show.
Yep.
Tuesday was a night of emotions, though.
Okay.
It started off with Patrick Laine making his return to the ice and making his official debut for the Montreal Canadiens.
Yep.
This was his first season with them, and as you might remember, he got injured in the preseason.
I do. Everyone was like, what the hell?
It was
like they're cursed, right?
They're cursed. He's cursed.
Right.
It's just been really, really awful. So he got back on the ice. It was his first game back. It was a home game. The arena gave him a standing ovation when he went on the ice, which was really sweet. He scored the first goal of the game.
That was the first goal?
Yes.
Oh,
it was
cool.
the first goal of the game, and it was a great one.
Yeah.
It really showed off his skill at shooting the puck. He just has a really great...
Yeah, apparently everyone likes the way he shoots.
He just has a great shot.
Yeah.
Just the placement and the speed and everything. It's just really fun to watch. He ended up getting the first star of the night and got another standing ovation for it, which was great.
It's awesome.
And it was the start of a trend because the next game he played was 2 nights later against the Preds, and he scored a goal in that one as well.
Fantastic.
And then he's also named as a player on Team Finland in the Four Nations face-off, which we'll talk about more a little bit later.
Oh, I don't think I realized that he's on there. Well, that's cool.
Yes, yeah. So everything's coming up Laine, which is really great.
Awesome.
There were some other emotional things on Tuesday night. I'm not going to talk about this one too much because I will cry and it will be gross. But, I know you have a hard enough time with the sound editing anyway, cutting out all of my ums and uhs. So I really don't want you to have to deal with my crying. But the Columbus Blue Jackets went to Calgary for the first time since Johnny and Matthew Gaudreau were killed. Mm-hmm. Johnny was drafted to Calgary and played there before he took a trade to Columbus to be closer to his family. So it was, both of his teams facing off. It was really, really emotional. Both of the teams wore Johnny Gaudreau jerseys during the warm-ups. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the game, they named Johnny first star, and his dad came out and accepted on his behalf. And
nice.
That was just part of the tributes. It was just a night full of tributes. Really lovely, really beautiful. I'm going to move on now so that the day isn't ruined.
Yeah, I feel like you were downstairs while that was on, and I was upstairs, and you texted, and you're like, hey, this is happening if you wanted to flip it on. And I was like, nah, I'm good.
Oh, I think I said that it's happening. You probably don't want to flip it on.
Oh, okay.
I'm watching it and I'm ugly crying.
Yeah.
I believe is the text.
Yeah, no.
So it was not, it wasn't, not a thing people need to subject themselves to.
Yeah, probably. But it was nice.
It was beautifully handled.
Yep.
They did a really great job. Different kind of emotional roller coaster was going on that evening in Buffalo. I think we mentioned last week. Yeah, we mentioned last week that our beloved Scott Wedgwood was rather unceremoniously traded to the Colorado Avalanche.
He was.
Very sort of out of the blue, it felt like, to everybody, including Scott Wedgwood, I would imagine. So, the Avalanche have really been struggling with their goaltending. And that game against Buffalo was no exception.
Right.
Alexander Georgiev, who is the Avs starting goaltender, gave up 4 goals on the first 8 shots.
Yikes.
Not great.
Bad stat.
Very bad stat. So this was on Tuesday. Scott Wedgwood had just been traded on
Saturday night. Saturday, yeah.
So this was a very, very quick sort of time for him to be yanked into the game. They pulled Georgiev partway through the first and said, hey, Wedgwood, you're up. Wedgwood doesn't even have Avalanche pads yet. Like, he was wearing his Nashville Predators goalie pads. So they're white, but they have yellow on them. So
interesting, yeah.
It's very strange. So they put Wedgwood in the goal, and he did really, really well. When he came in, the Avs were down 4-0. He did not let another goal in. Mm-hmm. He really held it down. He made some really fantastic saves. Some of them were a little terrifying.
Some of them, I saw some of them. And I
showed you some of the highlights.
I feel like a lot of the goalies this week looked like that, though. Just sprawled out, spinning around, not knowing what's going on.
Some of them he didn't really have a choice. One kind of was trickling down his back, so he sort of twisted out of the goal.
Right.
And flopped down on his back, facing away from the goal. So it would go out, but it didn't get frozen under his back.
Right.
But they kept it out. And then he had some other ones where he didn't seem like maybe he was in the ideal position. But you know what? He stepped up. He did it. He kept them all out. And the Avs came back and they won the game 5-4 after being down 4-0. So really great job from Wedgwood. He got the big stupid hat that they give to the player.
Yeah, the like is it a cowboy hat or
no? It's like a baseball.
It's like a baseball hat,
but it's oversized.
Right.
It's
like a foam baseball hat that's like 10 times too large.
It's possibly the stupidest thing I've ever seen it as part of the sort of post-game rituals that teams do. And I've seen a lot of stupid things.
Well, I'm glad he got it. He deserved it.
He did. And it didn't look terrible on him. So, we talked about him being traded last week, and I was pretty distraught because it was hard seeing him leave Dallas. And then I know he just wants to be sort of settled with his family. And then he only got a handful of months in Nashville and then was sent to Denver. But we saw an interview.
Yeah, we saw him speaking, I guess, before, like kind of like when he arrived. I don't think he'd ever even played a game yet.
I think it might have been before that Tuesday game, because
right.
I think they talked about him going in as a backup that night. But they asked they asked about sort of how he found out about the trade. It sounds like maybe it was the middle of the night. He said they were away in Minnesota when he was still with the Preds. They went back to the hotel after the game and went to sleep. And then he woke up because he heard a trilling noise, and sounds like maybe it was a phone or something. And then he said he looked through the peephole and Barry Trotz, who's the GM, was there.
Mm-hmm.
And then Barry Trotz sat down with him and talked to him about all the stuff. And then he talked to his agents, and then he tried to call his wife, but she was asleep. And then he went back to sleep.
Yep.
So I'm assuming it was the middle of the night, which that sucks. You're just sleeping, and all of a sudden your boss shows up and is like, hey, by the way, you're being transferred. You got to go to Denver tomorrow.
Yeah, that's I don't know how they handle that kind of, and that seems to be the way, from the AHL up through, like there's this whole, you're just at their mercy.
Yeah, very much. You are a chess piece and they're just moving you around, and they have no sort of consideration for.
Right.
I mean, it's what you sign up for.
Yeah.
It's part of it, but gosh, I don't know that I could live like that. I have a hard enough time if, the restaurant I was planning to go to is closed on a certain day. I don't do well with change. I would be freaking out. But they did also ask how he felt about, going to Colorado. They said, how did you feel when you found out that it was Colorado? And he said he was excited. He said he's actually envisioned himself playing for the team. He said he's played against these guys a ton over the years. And he said, we've had some battles and it's nice to be on this side of their skill set.
Right.
He kind of sounded a little bit like an Avs fanboy at certain points.
I think
throughout the interview.
Everybody seems to have like a place in their heart for them, or at least are like, they're really good.
Oh, yeah.
So,
McKinnon and Makar and Rantanen, and they definitely know the talent when they see it. So he, I think, has maybe been manifesting a little bit. He did make a point to say that it was really nice to play for a cup contender, which felt like a little dig at Nashville.
Well, they're certainly not a cup contender.
They absolutely are not. They're a contender for something, but it's nothing good.
Yeah. Do they have like the toilet bowl awards or something?
I don't know. They don't do relegation in the United States, but if there were, they would certainly be in contention for relegation.
Yeah.
It's not ideal.
Yeah, that interview seemed great. He seemed happy. He was really well spoken, really positive, in the face of some like extenuating circumstances, right?
Some huge changes. I mean, he looked exhausted.
Yeah.
But he's so professional. He's so polished. He's so sort of zen but cheerful at the same time.
Yeah.
One of the things that I always loved about him with Dallas, there was this great article a few years ago that they did where they talked with him and Jake Ottinger together. And, Jake talked about how when they sort of decided on them as the goalie duo, that Scott came to him and was like, hey, just so you know, I'm not after your job. Like, I'm the backup. You're the guy. I'm here to support you.
Yeah.
Like, we're a team. We work together. And that really helped Jake, who was very young at the time and had sort of been thrust into being the starter goalie a few years ahead of where they thought it would be. And Scott Wedgwood has been a career backup, and he's not in it for the glory. He's in it to be part of the team. And I always knew that. And he really made that clear in the interview. He talked about being aware of Colorado having a goaltending situation. He said, whatever the circumstances of the trade, maybe they needed a goaltending shakeup. I'm a hockey fan. I've been following things.
Right.
But he said, he'll take on some games, but mostly he's looking forward to working with Georgiev and getting some consistency between the two of them. A direct quote was, "We'll bond and we'll get the ship righted."
Yeah.
Which is such a cool thing. You don't always see that with people. There are a lot of goaltenders who very rightly want to come in and be the star and say, "Oh, this is my chance, prove myself," and be the guy.
Right. Yeah, no, he's one of those people. There are some people in the world that are just better at being a number two or being a behind the scenes guy, and I feel like he fills that role. He's a helper. He's not looking for the glory. He's quite happy with his role. I think it's probably a very sustainable life for him. And yeah, couldn't be happier. He also did mention that he's kind of known as a room guy, and he's going to bring some of that probably to Colorado. So
that is exactly what he said. They sort of asked him about his strengths, and he said he's been known as a room guy, and that's been intentional. He said, as a career backup goalie, you have to cement your place in the league somehow, and that's part of it for him. He has always worked on building relationships with everyone in the room, top of the bottom of the lineup. It doesn't matter how much money you're making or how much ice time you have. He said, we're a team, and you can't win without everyone.
Yeah.
And that's really how he's always been. That's how he was in Dallas. I know in Dallas, a lot of the younger guys in particular really looked up to him. I know he and Jake really sort of had planned on staying together, which was a real bummer when he got traded. He's so chill, but I was just ready to go into battle for him.
Right.
It's a great interview. It's really fantastic. I'll try to link it on the socials.
There we go.
But he just did great. I'm so happy for him. Now, I will say he did end up starting on Thursday against the Hurricanes, and the Avs did lose 5-3. Wedgwood did get scored on 4 times. The 5th time was an empty net.
Yeah. I mean, it's the Hurricanes.
Well, that's the thing, though, is, it's a .882 save percentage, but how much confidence does it show that the Avs have in him that they're like, hey, you know what? We're going to start this backup guy against the Hurricanes right now. That even if maybe he's not going to win that game, that he's going to do well enough that we're going to start him. We're going to keep him in. We're going to give Georgie a rest because God knows Georgie probably can't handle being up against the Canes right now.
Right.
And it wasn't the worst.
Yeah, no.
I watched the highlights and it was very back and forth the whole time. It wasn't, a runaway or anything like that. I don't think he did badly.
Yeah. I guess we'll have to have a new segment called Wedgewatch or something.
Yes, Wedgewatch. So I'm excited to see. And last night, the Avs played the Red Wings and beat the Red Wings 2-1. Georgiev was in the goal. Mm-hmm. He had a .967 save percentage, which is his highest save percentage of the season.
See, Wedgwood's already fixing problems.
I am choosing to believe that Wedgwood is already exerting a stabilizing influence over this situation.
He's going to fix those nerds up.
He totally is. He's going to get in there. He's going to be a hockey superhero, like it's little comic books, and he's just going to fix things. And
love it.
So happy for him. Wednesday is when they announced the Four Nations face-off rosters, but I'm going to skip that for now.
Okay.
We're going to come back to that because I think we need to
give that some time.
Devote some time to that. So I'll skip ahead to Thursday, which is when the Edmonton Oilers did a ceremony for Connor McDavid, who got his 1,000th point.
Yeah.
His parents were in attendance, as was his wife and their dog, Leonard, also known as Lenny.
Yep.
But they put Leonard on the screen.
Oh, well, it's a
formal event.
Formal ceremony, right.
Yes. McDavid was showered with gifts, including an engraved Rolex, a carved Tiffany crystal plaque, and a golden hockey stick.
Yeah, he was getting hooked up.
Very, very swaggy. They even made a little golden bone necklace for Lenny, which Leon Draisaitl kept trying to put on him, and he was absolutely not having it.
Not there for it.
Bullshit.
Yeah.
No, thank you. It was really funny to me that the camera, out of everyone during the ceremony, kept lingering on Leon Draisaitl to see his reaction to
obviously.
the ceremony.
Yeah.
He was showing the most sort of pride at Connor's achievements. Everybody else was like, hey, that's good for my husband, good for my kid. And then Leon, meanwhile, is like, Connor, you're the light of my life.
Yeah.
They just have such a special relationship.
Yeah. It was a nice ceremony, too. I don't know, I was expecting him to be awkward and goofy, but I felt like he handled it like with presence and grace.
He did pretty well. I think it helps that it was mostly his family,
Right.
his wife. I think his dog being there helps a lot. I think that's maybe his emotional support dog a little bit.
For sure.
Just like Leon is his emotional support coworker slash hockey guy.
Yeah. Work wife.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they did have, it was Leon and then Darnell Nurse and Ryan Nugent Hopkins all sort of participated in the ceremony too, because they've all played with Connor his whole career. So yeah, I thought it was really sweet.
No, it was a good little shindig.
Yes. And we did see later in the highlights somewhere that at one point during the game, they cut up to Lenny in the audience.
He was sitting in a seat, right?
He was sitting in a seat and
Yeah.
it said Leonard McDavid, first NHL game. I mean, that's pretty freaking cute. I'm sorry. It's, if your players don't have a personality, just have them get a cute dog. And that really carries a lot of the weight.
And this dog, this is the one that has like an Instagram and like a following, and it's like a local celebrity.
Yes. Well, Connor's dog has all of that. And then Leon also has a dog that has all of that.
Oh, right. I've seen Leon's dog in his car. Yeah.
Yes, Bowie.
Yeah.
So, of course, I mean,
they're just going to build a compound when they retire and just live together, aren't they?
Leon and Connor are besties. Their wives are besties and have been since high school. Their dogs are besties. It's a very, I mean, the Edmonton polycule is real.
Yeah. And I mean, Edmonton, how many people are there in Edmonton that can relate to Connor McDavid? Like, it's out in the middle of nowhere. He's got to find, makes sense.
How many people in the world can relate to Connor McDavid, really?
Well, that's another question, I guess. Yeah, that's more important. Yeah.
But especially in Edmonton.
Right.
There, you're going to feel even more isolated.
Yeah. I found myself looking at a map of Canada yesterday for some reason. To see where Calgary was.
Right.
And boy, Edmonton's just nowhere.
It is.
And we've seen parts of how big and wide open and nothing Canada can be.
We've driven through Canada and Alaska, and it's pretty remote.
Yep.
Very remote. Friday ended up being a really crazy day, starting kind of first thing in the morning. Immediately when I woke up, the first thing I saw was that the Rangers were like, hey, we're getting rid of Jacob Trouba.
Yeah, you
what's up?
Woke me up, got me out of bed. You're like, look at this news.
This is a lie. You were already out of bed. I was just texting you from bed. But yes, the Rangers said, Jacob Trouba, you're voted off the island.
Right. Yeah.
The island of New York.
Yeah.
Manhattan. I don't know.
Yeah, which is an island.
Yeah. See? I know stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, it wasn't completely out of left field. They sort of tried to get him out over the summer, and then the Rangers have not been doing well, and Jacob Trouba in particular has not been performing well. Jacob Trouba did have a no trade clause, or he had 15 teams that he couldn't be traded to.
Right.
I guess up through this July, he had a no movement clause whatsoever.
Right.
And then after that, it kicked into a no trade clause where there were 15 teams he couldn't be traded to. The Rangers were like, hey, guess what? We know there's these teams you don't want to be traded to, but we want you to waive that. And if you don't, we're going to put you on waivers, and then people can just pick you up, whoever wants to pick you up. So if you want to have any control in this situation whatsoever, pretty much you have to waive this and go along with it.
Really forced his hand, basically.
Yeah, really, it's a sort of contract loophole situation. I think it's something that they're probably going to have to tighten up in the players' contract situation the next time they do the CBA, because
got all businessy on us.
It got real businessy real fast. And the reason that Jacob Trouba the reason he had the no move in the first place, and the reason he didn't want to move over the summer, is his wife is a doctor and she's completing her residency. And he wrote the no move in his contract in the first place to coincide with the end of her residency.
Right.
COVID delayed the end of her residency.
Yep.
So he, again, is just trying to stick around till the end of her residency. The summer, nothing really worked. So he said, sorry, fuck you guys. I want to be with my family.
Right.
Even if he would have taken the move and his wife would have stayed there, obviously, and finished her residency, they've got a baby. He doesn't want to be away from his wife and his baby. So he wanted to stay in New York and be with his wife and his baby.
I mean, he's away a lot, too.
I don't care.
Yeah, but anyway.
He's putting his family first.
Yeah.
And I think that is pretty baller.
No, absolutely. Yeah. It makes sense. That's exactly how I would have done it. I feel like that's how a lot of normal people probably would have done it. But
I mean, we're here in Colorado because you got a really badass job opportunity in Colorado. And So I was like, yeah, let's go. I also didn't really like Florida. So
Right. And you
wasn't
weren't
really a big deal for me.
Yeah, you weren't in the middle of your residency.
I certainly was not.
No, just your Florida residency.
Oh, right, which I wanted to get out of. I didn't want to have a Florida residency anymore. I was like, please get me out of this.
Yeah.
This is great. Give me a Colorado residency instead.
Yeah.
But a medical residency is a different situation.
No, I think, I don't know. I guess it was drama. I think it worked out. That interview we saw with him, he handled it kind of like Wedgwood, like very professional, a few digs here and there, but he understands that that's part of the job.
He did come right out and say that it was a threat.
Right.
He was like, obviously it's not ideal. It was a threat. They put me on waivers if I didn't do this. So I had to do it if I didn't want to go on waivers. But, people asked him if they, maybe he wished he would have done something different over the summer so he would have had more control. And he was like, at the end of the day, I got to spend more time in New York with my family without disrupting my wife's career.
Yeah.
And so I have no regrets. And
got good half of the year.
Yeah.
Ish, sort of. Yeah.
No, you know what? Like July through December. Yeah, that's great for him.
Yeah.
So, and he took the trade to Anaheim. So I think he's just got this year left on his contract, maybe. So he might extend with them. He might go somewhere else. I don't know.
Yeah, it'll be
how
interesting.
It'll all turn out.
It'd be interesting to see him play there.
But I feel like there's good opportunities career-wise for her probably out there.
Probably. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know Anaheim at all. I don't even know where it is on a map.
Like outskirts of LA-ish, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah. So
cool.
I don't know. It could be good. I just think it's really great that he is prioritizing his wife's career.
Yeah, I agree.
It's great.
Yeah.
There are many hockey fans who are super mad about it, especially because he's the captain, and as the captain, you should put the team first. And you know what? I'm sorry. Fuck that.
No. Yeah.
Fuck it. I love hockey. I want teams to do well. I want teams to do great. There is more to life than your job. I don't care if your job is a big fancy hockey job. Like there's more to life than your job.
Yeah, like your wife's job, saving lives.
Yeah.
Right?
Hello. And people are like, oh, well, he talks about all of the inconvenience and stuff to his wife's career, but he's making so much money, he can just deal with it. Like, well, I make $12 an hour and, it would be different if it was me. It's like, it doesn't matter. Like at the end of the day, even if he's like rich and you're not, at the end of the day, it's still your boss that's fucking you over.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
It's still the employer. Like,
yeah, he's still an employee.
He's still an employee. He might be making a lot more money. His job is also, I promise you, a lot harder than yours.
Probably. Most people don't have to like manhandle people.
Or travel nonstop.
Yeah, the travel seems pretty aggressive. Having seen some of those behind the scenes, like they are going all the time. Like, sure, it's a private chartered jet, but still, it's 2:00 in the morning and you're walking on that thing to go play a game the next day.
Well, yeah, we had the Philadelphia mom's trip, and then there was a different mom's trip, and we watched the behind the scenes. And I think it was the Devils.
Yeah.
And both times they were like, yeah, they brought us along so we could see what our kids go through. And holy shit.
Right.
Like, these kids do not sleep or rest. They just work and travel all of the time.
Yep.
Like, no wonder we don't get to talk to them. And yeah, it's a lot. So I'm sorry, not sorry. I think it's cool. Whatever you think about him on ice and his propensity to run people into the boards with his elbow, I get it. It's fine. You can dislike him for whatever reason you want to, but
that's the reason I dislike him.
Exactly. That's perfectly valid reason to dislike him. But prioritizing his wife's medical career, I don't know.
That's a reason to like him.
If anything, that makes me want to like him. So whatever, fuck that. But anyway, he's going to Anaheim, or he's in Anaheim now, I guess.
Yep.
Anaheim, they've been pretty, down in the dumps lately. I don't think I've seen Trevor Zegras break a smile in a while. I'm hoping maybe Trouba starts like some art therapy for those kids.
Yeah. Yeah, something will happen.
Let them do some finger painting or something.
Yeah, I think
bring themselves into some canvases.
Yeah, we've gotten to know the Ducks a little bit more through the announcer and the announcers having been on
Victory.
Victory Plus. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah. Anaheim Ducks are on Victory Plus, Dallas Stars are on Victory Plus. So we've had a little crossover.
Yeah. And they seem
stuff.
They seem like they're on their way. I don't know that this is the year they're on their way, but I think they're making some interesting moves, I guess.
They're certainly not as far along in the rebuild as, say, the San Jose Sharks.
Right.
But they're trying to make moves in the right direction, and I think it won't be bad for them to have a veteran in the room who, for all intents and purposes, does seem to care about people.
Right.
When he is not elbowing them in the head. Oh, and then interestingly enough, and this almost got sort of glossed over, was later in the afternoon, before all of the dust had settled on that Anaheim move, New York then signed Igor Shesterkin to a record-breaking goalie contract, 8 years, $92 million, so $11.5 million a year.
Look at him go.
So I guess that's where Jacob Trouba's $8 million a year is going.
Yeah, they needed to pay Shesterkin.
Right. So I don't know how that's going to help the mood in the room that the captain got unceremoniously ousted and basically forced out. And then the goalie got all of his money. But
yeah, no, I would imagine people are nervous. They're like, ooh, they think we suck, but the goalie's great.
Yeah, I mean, I know they love the goalie and everything, but I just don't think that the vibes are maybe the best.
Probably not.
And that's that. And then Saturday, Tom Wilson caught a puck to the face, and I showed you the picture this morning, and you were absolutely horrified.
God, yeah. I would call out sick if that happened to me.
He did not. He went off the ice, got back in the game, and then scored 2 goals, including the game winner. So
I don't know.
Hockey players are built different, man.
Yeah, totally.
They are, I broke a nail this morning, and I was like, I can't do the podcast. So
yeah,
they are very, very different. And then we also, this wasn't really restricted to one day, but this was the week of Matthew Tkachuk.
Okay.
Yeah. He hit his 600th point this week.
Okay. That's good.
He also did it 15 games faster than his father did. So
okay. All right.
That was nice. I feel like, the Chucks are competitive. So that's worth
they certainly are
noting.
Competitive. Yes. you know, he's rubbing that in his dad's face.
Damn straight.
Absolutely. And his father loves it.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no. His dad is like, hell yes.
Yep.
And then he's like, fuck you. But then he's like, yes, I'm so proud.
Mm-hmm.
Matthew's just having a great week all around. He's on a 6-game point streak. He has scored 11 points in his last 3 games.
That seems like a lot of points.
That's a lot of points.
Yep.
He was named the NHLPA Player of the Week. So that's the Players Association.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was also a great interview that Paul Maurice gave early in the week. And he said that Tkachuk's gift is, he said, quote, Matthew is emotionally in tune to the game.
Yeah.
Basically, that he can hone in on the weaknesses in the other team. He can pick up on what's bothering them and figure out how to target it. And then he also knows how to motivate his own team.
Right.
Sort of when they need to be barked at, when they need sort of pats on the shoulder or the back to get through it. He knows when he needs to start a scrum to get the energy turned around. And I just think it's really fantastic that he is emotionally intuitive, and that, which, is rare for a hockey player.
Apparently, yeah.
I feel like
yeah.
They're not the most emotionally in tune bunch from what I can tell. And that what he does is he uses that skill for evil.
Right.
He uses it to wreak havoc and chaos on his opponents.
He uses his positive skill for negativity.
Yes. And this is why I think that the Matthew Tkachuk Academy for Pests is a real thing.
Yeah.
And I am ready to invest in that academic program.
I think so. Yeah.
I'm ready to send all of my kids to school, and by all of my kids, I mean Mason Marchment. All right. So often at the end of the show, we'll play a little game, but I'm going to tell you right now, we're not going to have time for that because we had so much news this week, and then we have bonus news content this week.
I thought he retired.
No, not Rick Bono. Oh boy, that's such a Fred joke.
Yeah.
There. Do you guys see what I have to deal with?
Oh boy.
It's a problem.
I think it's good we're not doing a game. I'm not feeling very creative today.
Since when is that anything new? I'm kidding. You 3D print amazing fidget toys for our child.
Yeah, so creative.
You're a creative genius.
All right, 4 Nations. Let's do it.
Yes, yeah. On Wednesday, we learned the full rosters for the teams for the 4 Nations face-off. So I wanted to sort of devote our game time to that.
Yeah.
So there are, as you might expect, 4 nations participating in the 4 Nations face-off.
Right. And you're saying so I didn't understand that this was important and interesting, but this is kind of like a precursor to Olympic hockey, which will be coming back.
Correct.
Okay.
So this is happening this year instead of an all-star game. They're doing this. And
no all-star game.
no all-star. No all-star weekend or anything. This is happening instead of
Well, good. Those suck.
I know, right?
Yeah.
I'll fucking take it. People are like, I don't really know about this. And I'm like, you know what? No all-star game. Give it to me.
The last two are brutal.
Oh, boy. They are not ideal. I mean, no Michael Bublé doing shrooms at this, presumably.
Yep. I mean, the only thing I remember from the last two is Miami was goofy and they were out playing golf the whole time doing stupid contests. And then last year was Kucherov, like not even trying.
And Tate McRae was there.
And Tate McRae. Hot. Yeah. Well, I mean, she's gonna do what Tate McRae does.
Which is mumble and look hot.
Yep.
So there you have it. So the 4 nations face off. There are 4 nations participating. There's Finland,
yep,
Sweden, Canada, and the U.S.
Right.
So each nation has a team. And yeah, for many years now, the NHL has not participated in the Olympics because the Olympics takes place during the NHL season. And so if they send NHL players to the Olympics, then either they have to shut down the NHL for a couple of weeks or we have to play without a lot of our best players.
Right.
Gary Bettman doesn't like any of that. I guess he was going to relent and let us do that the last Winter Olympics, but that was the COVID year. So
okay. Yeah.
That didn't happen. So we're going to maybe do it again, it looks like. So this is kind of a precursor. And a lot of the, coaching people are also sort of involved with the Olympics. So
right.
Some of the rosters, we might be getting a look at who might be on Olympic rosters. It's exciting. So they announced the rosters and there were some surprises here and there. I'm not going to go down like person by person or anything, but I figured we could kind of check in on each roster. And
yeah, that's cool.
Give kind of our overview.
Yeah, my overview will be really informed.
You're like, oh, I think that has a couple of guys I know.
Right, exactly.
So let's kind of start with, I think, Sweden and Finland, since we maybe don't know those as well.
All right.
Sweden, I think we can sort of agree is maybe the one that we are the least knowledgeable about. And
I would agree. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I know a good chunk of names, but I do not know them.
Yeah. As players, I'd say we're most familiar with Philippe Forsberg from the Predators, William Nylander from the Maple Leafs, maybe Mika Zibanejad from the Rangers.
Yep.
And then there's some other names we know. Obviously, Rasmus Andersson, Rasmus Dahlin, Matthias Ekholm, former Dallas Star, now an Edmonton Oiler.
Yeah.
Victor Hedman. Lots of names we know. The goalies, we definitely know. Philippe Gustafsson, Jacob Markstrom, Linus Ullmark.
Yeah, I guess. And the defense, yeah, I don't know a lot of these names. Like, I recognize the names, but I don't know them past the kind of ones you've laid out there. So I don't have any idea how they would all play together. I don't actually know how any of these guys at all would play together.
That's kind of the thing, is I feel like I'm better knowing that on some of the other teams, especially Canada, I want to say. Here, I'm not as familiar. I just don't follow a lot of these teams in general.
Yeah.
So maybe they're going to be great. But from what I'm reading, people don't think that Sweden's necessarily the strongest out of this slate, which makes sense. There's not as many Swedish players in the NHL. So.
Yeah. I mean, my hot take on it was, I don't know most of these guys. They're not going to be good.
Well, you're certainly entitled to that opinion. So let's move on to Finland.
All right, cool.
Finland, I do know more of the players because obviously many of them came from the Dallas Stars, which is the Finland of, Dallas is the Finland of Texas.
Okay.
Kind of. We just always have Finnish players there. So all of our Finland roster made it. We've got Roope Hintz for the forwards.
Yep.
And then we have Miro Heiskanen and Esa Lindell for the defense.
Yeah.
There's also former Dallas Star Jani Hakanpää has made the roster.
Yep.
Which is interesting and kind of a surprise because he was traded to Toronto last year and has played maybe 2 games for them and then has been out with an injury.
Yeah, he's been injured, right?
And when he first went to Toronto, it was rumored that he had some career-ending injury and he would never actually play there. So, I think some of these rosters, even though they're the finalized ones, they may still change by the end of it.
Yeah, yeah. How soon is this happening?
It's in February, I believe.
Okay, so relatively soon.
It's coming up. And it's whenever the All-Star break usually is, which is usually February, I want to say.
Okay.
There are also a lot of Florida Panthers on this team because Florida Panthers has a lot of Finnish players. That's why we were the 2 teams chosen to go to Finland, which was a great time. And we were not stressed at all about that.
Yeah. It was a fun time for all.
Fun time for everyone. It was great. Bathrobes, saunas, the rest of it doesn't matter. So we have all of those people. We have also Patrick Laine from the Canadiens, which I mentioned. Mikko Rantanen from the Avalanche. So lots of really good players. I'm inclined to think Finland will do pretty well just because I know how well our Finnish players do.
Yeah.
I don't know how that translates to all the Finnish players as a whole, but between the Finnish players on the Panthers who I follow and the Finnish players on the Stars who I follow, there's some strong players.
Well, as we've discussed, I've got Finland to win it all because I certainly know the most names on this list.
There you have it.
That's my reason.
And I think you're like spiritually Finnish.
Yeah, I've enjoyed the Finns in sporting events for a long time, going back to Kimi Räikkönen and F1.
It's true. And just sort of your personality, I feel like, is very Finnish.
I think I would fit in pretty well there.
Whereas I'm like spiritually from Philadelphia.
Yeah, I'd probably need to not drink coffee over there and just kind of tone it down a little bit. But I could fit in pretty quick, I think.
I think you would blend in pretty immediately. I wouldn't do well over there at all. I'm way too social.
Yeah.
And I'm antisocial. Going on to the United States. This is the brotherly team. We have a couple of Hugheses. We have Jack Hughes and Quinn Hughes.
Right.
No Luke Hughes.
Who?
The third Hughes.
Oh, yeah. The third Hughes.
Yeah. The Hughes you don't know. Also, both Kachuk brothers have made Team USA. So
right.
That's going to be insane.
Yeah.
One Kachuk is a party. Two Kachucks is a crime scene.
Yeah.
It's gonna be chaotic.
Yeah, them playing together. That'll be fun.
We also have another Dallas Star in the mix. Jake Ottinger made the goaltending cut. He is one of the goalies, along with Connor Hellebuck from the Winnipeg Jets and Jeremy Swayman from the Boston Bruins.
U.S. back up. U.S. back up.
Go to hell. You know what? It's fine if he's the U.S. backup because Connor Hellebuck's great.
Yeah.
And he's still going to be the backup because he's better than Jeremy Swayman right now.
Oh, man. Swayman. I don't know.
Yeah, Swayman is swaying.
Yeah, he's swaying all right.
He's not so good. And, also Austin Matthews. He's American.
Yeah, sometimes I forget that.
I know. But right. Yeah, he's American. Jack Eichel, American.
Apparently.
He's from Boston, I believe.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So lots of great players. Really, really solid
So the
lineup there.
The general vibe is the U.S. is stacked?
General vibe is the U.S. is stacked. I think they maybe don't have as many superstar players as Canada.
Right.
They have, they do have some superstars. They've got, Austin Matthews. I'd say Jack Hughes qualifies. Matthew Tkachuk, I think Matthew Tkachuk's my superstar.
Right.
The goaltending for the U.S., I would say,
gives them a leg up. Even with Jeremy Swayman being kind of the weak link out of this. He's still a capable goalie.
He's a capable goalie. Canada's goalie situation, I think, is not as strong. You've got Jordan Binnington, everyone's favorite rage wad.
Yeah. Wild card hothead.
Yeah.
Yep.
Aiden Hill from Vegas.
I've seen his name.
Yeah. And Sam Montembeault from the Montreal Canadiens.
I've heard his name.
He can be really good. It's hard to tell with him because the Canadiens are just not doing very well this year.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of gives a skewed perception of his stats because the defense in front of him isn't great.
Right.
So it's hard to say, but it's not the strongest goaltending trandom.
Trandom?
I don't know.
Truple?
The thruple. The strongest goaltending trio, I guess.
Triumvirate.
Triumvirate out of the bunch. I think the US one is certainly better.
Yeah.
But they have a lot of really, really strong players on Canada. We've got Sam Bennett. We've got
Badass.
Sidney Crosby. We've got Seth Jarvis, which was a big surprise for people, but he's been great.
Yeah, apparently he's Canadian. He gives strong American vibes.
Yeah, I think it's, playing in Carolina, but also just he has, I don't know, sort of redneck, but also New Jersey vibes.
Right.
Don't ask me to explain. I can't do it.
No, I'm good with it.
You've got Nathan McKinnon. You have Brad Marchand. You have Mitch Marner. You have Connor McDavid. Mark Stone's going to be there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mark Stone. If he's healthy.
If he's healthy. Defensemen, you have Cale Makar, Josh Morrissey, Devon Taves. it's a really great bunch. There were some surprises on there. Happy surprises for us. We had Travis Sanheim from the Philadelphia Flyers.
Yep.
And Travis Konechny from the Philadelphia Flyers.
Yeah, really cool.
Really great additions. And this is where I'm a little more knowledgeable. TK can do anything. He's on the PK. He's on the power play. He can do 5-on-5. He can do everything. He's just a very versatile player.
Yeah.
Same with Sanheim. He's, a defenseman. He can do offense.
Like last week or maybe the week before, I found out he was defense and I was shocked.
Yes.
I was like, wait, he's a defender?
Yeah, because he does. He scores a lot of the goals and he really has a lot of presence on ice. And usually you don't notice a defenseman unless they're doing something wrong.
Yeah.
You notice him a lot and it's not because he's doing wrong stuff. So then you just assume he's a forward.
Yeah. And that's a pretty strong indication of how much I actually pay attention to hockey.
Right.
With one of the teams we watch like most of their games.
With your team that you are currently wearing a Flyers hat.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, that one guy is not actually a forward.
Yeah, no, I thought he was just from the way he played.
Exactly. And that reminds me, too, that Ristolainen made the Four Nations as well.
Yeah, that one, I feel like I've heard his name and his name sticks in my head. Like I'll just be walking around after a game saying, Ristolainen, like in the back of my head and it won't go away. It's like an intrusive thought.
It's a very cool name.
Yeah.
Again, the Finns.
Mm-hmm.
It's you being spiritually Finnish. So I kind of feel like the United States has the strongest team across the board. Canada could really
Canada looks good,
out.
right?
It's going to depend on the goaltending, though. I mean, literally, they were trying to figure out if they could put Joey Daccord on Team Canada because he has like dual citizenship. Like one of his parents, I think, is Swiss and one is Canadian. And then he just doesn't have a Canadian passport. So I guess he couldn't be on Team Canada.
Bummer.
So
yeah, they were trying to rig the system there, huh?
I know, but I love Joey Daccord, but he's not like an elite goaltender. So if they're trying to like scrounge him up, he's really great. Like I'm not trying to talk shit about him, but he's not like, a Hellebuck or something where it would make sense that they're trying to rig the system.
Right. Yeah.
Like, it's just like resources are real thin on the ground for Canadian goalies right now, apparently.
Apparently. Yeah. They got to start developing them.
I did have a thought too. I do wish there was room for one more team that was like an international team.
That would be cool, but then it wouldn't be then it'd be four. Then
it'd be the five. Yeah, it wouldn't
be the Four Nations in this group, in this Bad News Bears group here.
Yeah, well, it's just there are some really great players that aren't going to even get the opportunity to play because they don't come from countries that have enough representation in the NHL.
I mean, Russia, there's tons of Russians, aren't there?
Well, yeah, and I know why they're not having Russia be a team. It's, Russia in international sports, it's controversial right now. I think, Russia doesn't have a team at the Olympics right now. But, you could have, from Germany, you could have Leon Draisaitl, Moritz Seider, and Tim Stützle. Nico Hischier and Roman Josi are both Swiss. David Pasternak is Czech.
Yeah.
None of them are going to get the opportunity to play. And it's a shame because they're really fantastic players. And then you could get a few Russian players on that team. And that could be the way you could get some Russian players in without having to have a Team Russia.
Yeah.
So you could get, Ovechkin, Vasilevsky, Kaprizov.
Yeah.
It'd be really fun. It'd be really cool.
Yeah, it would be. No, I agree. Just a collect-all team would be cool. But then there'd be 5 teams. So you'd need like 2 collect-all teams or something.
Yeah, it wouldn't work. And I understand that, but it would just be neat.
Yeah, I agree.
Like so I'm fan casting my.
Yeah. You want everyone to get a participation trophy.
I just want people to be able to participate. I don't care if they get a trophy. I just want to watch them play. I just want to watch good players play against other good players.
Yeah.
Sorry about it. Okay, well, I think we should just move on to our teams that we like to focus on now.
All right. You've prepared me. You've got thoughts on the Dallas Stars. Do we have things to talk about with the Flyers too, or no?
Yeah, let's talk about the Flyers.
We could do that quick.
We'll just touch on them quick, and then it's going to be Stars reckoning time. So the Flyers had most of the week off. They had an action-packed week last week, so they only played twice this week. Thursday, they played against the Panthers at home, and then yesterday they played in Boston. They lost both of the games, but there was a lot of good stuff worth talking about, too.
Yeah, they picked up a point in Boston, but not against Florida.
Not against Florida.
Right.
Exactly. So we'll start with the Thursday game. The Panthers and the Flyers are just 2 of my favorite teams to watch.
Right.
They're so fun. The Panthers are undoubtedly a stronger team. They're more skilled throughout the lineup. They're more consistent. But they both have this similar fuck you energy that I find really compelling.
Yeah.
It's really great to watch. So I'm always happy to see them facing off, even though it makes me very nervous for the Flyers because it's hard to see them go up against a team that's so good and that also kind of can meet them where they're at energy-wise. Because some teams don't know what to do with like the Flyers' sort of aggro scrappiness, and it gives them a little more of an edge than it maybe does against the Panthers. So the Panthers had their backup goalie, Spencer Knight, in because Bobrovsky was off for a few games because his wife was having a baby.
Nice.
So he went on a paternity leave. The Flyers did start Ivan Fedotov, but they switched him with Alexei Kolosov after the first intermission because he let in 2 goals in the first period.
Yeah, he let in.
The second one was pretty soft.
I mean, you heard me during that game. I was like, they need to pull him in between periods. I was like, he looks like an absolute train wreck right now.
You did, in fact, say that.
And then he didn't come back after the first period.
You did, in fact, call that. And
Yep.
I will vouch for that. So Kolosov came in for him. It ended up being a really high-scoring game on both sides. I'm not going to get into all of the back and forth on it.
No, we don't need a play-by-play here, but
the final score was 7-5 in favor of the Panthers.
Yeah, so. They held their own and just kind of buckled towards the end. They had some good looks. They weren't blown out, which is kind of, I think, everybody's thought going like, oh boy, they're playing the Panthers. But I guess the Panthers haven't been like doing so hot.
They had a stretch where they had a lot of losses, but they have been out of that stretch. So the last 3 or 4 games before that, I think they had won. So they...
Point machine Matthew Tkachuk.
Yeah, point machine Matthew Tkachuk has been in fine form.
Right.
And he looked great in that game, too. He was just doing all of his Matthew Tkachuk things that he likes to do. We did have the Flyers got a lot of points on the board from different people. The goal scorers, there were Tyson Forrester, Nick Seeler, Garnet Hathaway, and 2 from Owen Tibbett.
Yeah.
So not just the usual sort of people like TK and Michkov who've been sort of carrying lately. And I was just impressed by how the Flyers hung in there. You know, the Panthers can be absolutely lethal.
Yeah. God, they're relentless. They felt so relentless. I don't know how you play against, like, when coaches and players are talking about teams that are hard to play against, like, you can see it when you're playing against the Panthers.
Yeah. And everybody says that.
They're just always there. They're always swarming. I think I said this during the game too. It's like, what kind of physical conditioning do they have that's different than everyone else? Because they just look so fast and so hungry all the time. Like, they don't slow down.
No, they never do. And it's funny you said relentless because I have that in my notes later for talking about the Stars, but not in a good way.
All right.
So we'll get to that.
All right. Boston, do we need to talk about?
Yeah, we'll go ahead and talk about Boston. Oh, just real quick. I was going to say that John Tortorella didn't necessarily agree with me on being impressed by how well the Flyers hung in there against Panthers because he skipped out on the press conference entirely. And when they asked why, he said that him speaking to the press wouldn't have been very productive.
Yeah, no, he was unhappy.
He was in fine form.
Yep.
So yesterday, Flyers played the Bruins. They put Kolosov in the net again, and Swayman was in the goal for Boston.
Mm-hmm.
Flyers started out really strong. Michkov scored 2 goals in the first, and Cam York also scored for the Flyers. So the score at one point was 3-1 in favor of the Flyers. Then the third period started, and things really went downhill.
Yeah.
The Flyers were pretty undisciplined, took some bad penalties.
Yeah, real bad timing on it.
Real bad timing. Most of the penalties were earned. I will say some of them were kind of ticky-tacky penalties.
Yeah.
And there were penalties that could have been called on Boston that were very similar to the ones that were called on Flyers that were not called.
Right.
So kind of uneven. Torts was not happy after the game with the officiating.
Torts was very unhappy.
He said... I mean, he didn't even wait for a question.
He did not wait for a question. He said, all right, I've got something to say, basically. He's like,
I teach my team not to dive, and I guess I should be teaching my team to dive.
Yep.
He was not stoked. And he was like, and I teach them that because I don't want to embarrass the referees, but I guess this other team doesn't care about embarrassing the referees.
Right.
It was...
He was in fine form, and he was very happy with the way everybody played. And he was pissed that they lost that game.
Yeah, he did mention that they did piss away the lead a little bit.
Yeah, they do that.
And there was one point where TK got pulled out because he got hit and the concussion spotter wanted to evaluate him. And then Torts was like, but I didn't put him back in because he was undisciplined.
He's undisciplined. Can't trust him out there.
He didn't put him in for OT.
Yeah.
So, and yes, the Flyers did end up tying the game back up by the end, but they went into OT and the Bruins won. So, yes, it was a loss, but they did get a point out of it. So,
yeah,
they continue to sort of claw and scrape their way into a wild card position by their fingernails by continuing to make it to OT constantly.
Yep.
You know, Tort says like they don't have any quit in them and they just fight. And that's just what they do. And it really, really is. And that's one thing he says is like he can't ever fault them for the level of fight that they have.
Yeah. Fantastic stuff.
Love it. Okay. Moving on to the Stars.
Oh my God. We're just getting to the Stars now.
We are. Okay. The Stars had a busy week. It kicked off on Sunday where they played the Jets at home before they left for a back-to-back in Utah, which also kicked off a 3-game road trip. The Stars would then go on to face the LA Kings and the Vegas Golden Knights. Before we get into the games, I do want to note that we were dealt a pretty big blow this week. On Monday, it was announced that Tyler Seguin has a hip injury that will require surgery, and he'll be out for 4 to 6 months. And that is troubling for a lot of reasons, which I'll get into. But first, I just wanted to do a quick rundown on the games. So Sunday, we faced the Jets. The last time we were against them in November, they beat us 4-1. So we were looking for some redemption, and we got it.
Mm-hmm.
The Jets got on the board first in the first period in their first recorded shot on net.
Yeah.
So that was scary. But it would be their only goal in the game. Wyatt tied it up by the end of the first. And then you talked about this goal briefly earlier. But in the third period, Mason Marchment had a reverse spinorama backhanded goal that was so sick.
Top shelf or cookie jar, whatever they say. Bar down. It was nice.
It wasn't any of those things, but it was.
It was up in the corner.
Yeah, but it was so good. I think the game wasn't even over before the NHL Shorts had it up in their highlights. It was beautiful. It's made all of the highlight clips already. I imagine it will continue to do so, even, months end. Razor called it borderline indecent. It was just a sexy goal. And he was totally feeling himself afterwards. He had his arms all aloft and he crashed into the glass. And Tyler Seguin was just like laughing at him because he was just feeling himself so hard. And he should have been because it was great.
Yeah.
And then, that was the game-winning goal. And then for good measure, we got an empty net. Lindell had chipped one down the ice. And then Roope kind of waited till the very last possible second to make sure it wasn't going in and then nudged it in just to... Mm-hmm. He didn't want to steal his buddy S's goal, though, which was very cute. Monday, we traveled to Utah for a back-to-back. Since Jake played on Sunday, the backup goalie got the start. In the interest of being fair, I will acknowledge that the backup goalie did a really phenomenal job in the game.
Okay.
He really kept the Stars in it. He has had some very bad games. Mm-hmm. I've called him out for that. So I will say that he did a very good job.
Yeah.
Had at least a half dozen really fantastic saves.
Yeah, and these games for the rest of the week were all late. So I saw maybe the first and then I was in bed.
That is true. Yeah, they were all West Coast road games. So not something that you can hang with. Utah is one of the youngest games in the league, or youngest teams in the league. Mm-hmm. And they looked really hungry. And the goaltending really did keep us into it. But in the end, they weren't a match for Dad's strength because we had 2 goals and one of them was Dodonov and one of them was Jamie Benn.
Hey, there we go.
We really kind of bullied them at the end. They were really trying to tie it up. It was 2-1 and we just kept having defensive zone face-offs. And Jamie Benn would just win the face-off and we would just shovel the puck down the ice and ice it. And we just ran out the clock for about the last minute and a half. And I know I've been saying I wanted the Dallas Stars to get a personality, but the personality felt very high school bully. It was very just Jamie Benn pretty much blatantly cheating at the face-offs and icing the puck over and over again, 3 or 4 times in a row until the clock ran out. It was effective. It worked. It wasn't the prettiest hockey.
Yeah.
It definitely made Utah mad. There was a skirmish afterwards. Jamie Benn stayed pretty uninvolved until somebody punched Logan Stankoven in the face, and then he tried to get back into it.
Yep.
Stankoven took on 2 guys himself. He doesn't care.
No.
He's like, I don't care that I'm the size of a pocket mouse. I will beat you all.
He's a honey badger.
He is. He's a honey badger. The biggest thing was that Post Malone was there, I guess. And
that was the biggest thing. And everybody found out he lives in Utah.
Apparently.
Yeah.
And he was a guest of the owner, and then he went to the Dallas Stars dressing room afterwards, which I guess there's a lot of Posty fans, so they were all very happy.
Yeah.
So those were the good games.
Okay.
I mean, they were fine. Wednesday, we went and saw the Kings. And the broadcast situation was a little unusual. It was on TNT, so I just assumed it was only on TNT.
Right.
And so I watched the pregame and the first period there. It is actually good. I watched the pregame there because I got to see Jackie Redmond interview Jake Ottinger because the same night they announced the Four Nations face-off. And she asked if he had thought about what his goalie mask would look like for that, because usually they do special goalie masks for tournaments and things. And he kind of beamed and was like, yes, I've been thinking about it. It was very cute. And she asked, what his plans were. And he said he didn't want to give too many details, but he did mention a certain helmet that Henrik Lundqvist wore back in the day that had the Statue of Liberty on it, and mentioned that there might be a tribute to that on there.
Awesome.
And then Jackie mentioned that Hank was in the studio tonight, and she's sure he would be very happy about the tribute. And then Jake got all bashful. That's very cute.
Yeah, they both of those guys seem to have an admiration for each other.
They do. When Hank was talking about, I think, the goalie slate for the Four Nations lineup, everybody else was last named, but he was calling Ottinger Jake. He was like, oh, Jake will be really good. I think Hellebuck will get the start, but Jake's very, very good too.
Yeah.
So I loved that for him. I think they have a little crush on each other, and it's very, very sweet. It did turn out the game was also being broadcast on Victory Plus, which is weird, but yeah, I'll go with it. So I watched the rest of the game on Victory Plus. One thing you missed out on was we had good outfits.
Oh, the announcers and commentators?
Brian and Sevy looked great. Like, I wrote down hot ?
Wow.
So I'm going to have to show you if I can find that.
Yeah.
Because, I don't know, maybe the edibles had just kicked in at that point, but I think they looked good.
Yeah.
It might just be that the bar has been so low because they've looked so bad for so long.
I mean, exactly. It's hard to say, but maybe somebody sent them an email and said, can you guys stop looking like trash on TV?
We'll make you wear ties again if you don't start looking like you actually made an effort.
Right.
It's the worst.
Yeah.
For the game itself, we did have some good moments. Wyatt and Mush both scored in the first period, but, we lost 3-2.
Okay.
Honestly, the best moment of the game was at one point, a Kings defenseman was skating full on and had to let up because of a whistle. And with his trajectory, he was going to make contact with Mason Marchment. But instead of just running him into the boards, he kind of ran into him and sort of corralled him and had a little cuddle with him and guided him around the ice.
Okay.
That tells you how good the game was.
I guess you'll have to show me that one. I don't understand.
Yeah, I'll have to show you that one too, because it just was not good. It was, there was no fight.
Yeah.
There just was not a lot of fight. After the first period, it just felt like we didn't really show up.
Yeah, when the Stars look sleepy, they look like maybe a little more awake than the Islanders.
Right.
It's noticeable.
It's very noticeable. You know how the Flyers last week, we kept talking about these OT game winners, and it's Couturier goes and he ends up doing a flip in the air because he's going so fast, and then Michkov runs into the boards. Right. The Stars, they let up. They just let up. Mm-hmm. They don't keep going till the end. Right. They let up, and it just felt like they were letting up all night. Yeah. Then Friday, we played the Golden Knights, the Vegas Golden Knights, everybody's favorite team in the NHL.
Correct.
Mark Stone has been day-to-day with an injury for about a month, but he was miraculously well enough to come back for this game. Yeah. He always seems to come back just in time to face the Stars.
Interesting.
Why are you so obsessed with us, Mark Stone? The pacing of this game is super choppy, largely because it was a special teams showdown.
Oh, yeah. I saw the first, right? And some of the... No, I don't know if I saw some of the third.
You did. It was Friday, so you stayed up pretty late. You definitely saw chunks of it.
Man, I was bored because it was just choppy and nothing was happening and nobody was doing anything. I got bored with that game real fast.
I think all told, Dallas went to the box 7 or 8 times. Mm-hmm. Some of these were sort of overlapping with Vegas penalties, so maybe it was a 4-on-4. But for the most part, Dallas was getting called for penalties. Vegas was not. Dallas, for the most part, did commit the penalties that they were called for. Mm-hmm. Some of them were pretty glaring and should have been called. Other ones were really ticky-tacky and were the kinds of things that often get overlooked. One of them, Mason Marchment, snow showered the goalie a little bit and got an unsportsmanlike.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah, and they put him in the box for 2 minutes at the beginning of the second period, I believe.
Interesting.
That's not something I've like ever seen before.
No, yeah. I've seen it done before and everyone's like, ooh, not cool, dude. But
Right. And it didn't even feel intentional necessarily. It just felt kind of incidental, but
sure.
Nope, they put him in the box. I mean, it could have been intentional. I don't know. I have my judgment blinders on.
Yeah, I was going to say you need to maybe stop being such an apologist for him post dive.
Listen, I will admit that he embellished the shit out of that one, so that's fine. It didn't feel intentional to me, but I will admit that I might be wrong. But regardless, that's just not a thing that they usually call.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. I've not seen that called ever before.
Yeah. And then there were lots of things that they were calling the Stars for that, again, they weren't calling Vegas for, certain penalties. Mm-hmm. Tripping and spearing and things like that, where, again, it's like Dallas did the penalty. They should do the time. But it's like, if you're going to call the penalties, call them evenly. That's all I ask.
Well, it's going to ruin their sports betting if they do that.
I mean, yeah. In Vegas, of course.
Keep saying that. I'll tell you what, 5-10 years down the road, like there's going to be like Stanley Cups invalidated because of this nonsense. That's my prediction, at least.
It's preposterous.
Yeah.
It's the worst. It's very upsetting. I will say, yeah, it was really frustrating that Marchment got 2 minutes for snow showering the goalie when Mark Stone cross-checked Jake in the face and got nothing for it.
Yeah.
And that, I think, was really the turning point in the game because Jake was really rattled by it.
Yeah.
He came out a few minutes later and played a puck behind the net, and there were lots of bodies back there, and it felt like it almost got taken away. And then he got scored on a few minutes after that, and that was the tying goal. So, there were some good goals in the game. Maverick Borg had a really greasy net front goal, which is the kind of stuff we need to be scoring that we're missing out on.
Yeah.
But overall, it was just like the quit was in.
Yep.
The fix was in, but the quit was also in. It was not a good showing. So this is where I talk about the Stars now for a minute. So
I'm excited. I'm excited to hear this. I've known you've had thoughts, but I do not know what these thoughts are.
I've had thoughts all week, and I've tried to keep them to myself and save them for now. So, earlier we talked about Wedgwood and how he's known to be a room guy. And I've been saying all season that it feels like something's missing. And I feel like that might be it. Like, not just Wedgwood, but the team chemistry is missing. It's off.
Yeah, I would agree.
We lost a handful of players over the summer, and some of them were room guys.
Right.
Some of them probably weren't so much. I don't think Ryan Suter was much of a room guy.
No, he was probably dragging the room down.
I know Radek Faksa was really well liked, but I don't know necessarily that he was like a linchpin.
He's Finnish, right?
He's Czech.
Oh, Czech. Okay. Yep.
So Yanni Hakanpää was definitely part of that Finnish core, though.
Right.
So there, that messes with that chemistry. Scott Wedgwood, huge room guy, really important to Jake, to a lot of the younger people.
Yep.
Ty Dellandrea was, everyone's emotional support, healthy scratch.
Yeah, he is literally just known as a room guy.
He would go on vacation, like couples vacations, but as a single person. Like, it was like him and like 4 couples on the team.
Yeah.
He was with everyone, and he seemed to really cross the lines and get along with all of the different people.
Gotcha.
So, sort of, he wasn't like in a clique or anything.
Yep.
And then Joe Pavelski, like the ultimate room guy.
Yeah.
So to lose Deli and Wedgwood and Pavelski, I feel like the vibes in the room are just not great.
Yeah, that could be.
And then, Wedge and Deli, a lot of their impact was as room guys, but Pavs also had an effect as on ice chemistry as well.
Yeah.
With his net front tipping. Like, our net front game sucks right now.
Yeah, it does.
We don't have anybody tipping in front of the net. We have like Robo and Rope like trying to be all fancy and shit. And, like,
right.
We need that guy who's like tipping the pucks at the front of the net. And Joe was always there, like the first one there, the last one to leave, practicing tipping those goals. And, I don't know if anybody's been doing that. Like, maybe Tyler Sagan, and he's going to be out for like the next 6 months with a busted hip. Like,
yeah.
It's not great.
I think this is a reasonable take because I will say, watching Wyatt Johnston this year, he doesn't seem as light. There doesn't seem to be as much light with him either. He just seems kind of heavy.
Right. And we just watched a video last night that was on Victory Plus where, he's got his first apartment. He's moved out of the Pavelski house.
He's got his first, so adorable.
He's got his first apartment. It looks just like a college apartment.
Yeah.
It just looks It's definitely furnished with hand-me-down furniture, including a ping pong table that they got from Jamie Benn.
Right.
And, I think he lives on his own, but some of the other players live in the complex. So he's got Logan Stankoven and Maverick Bork over a lot, and Thomas Harley. And I believe also maybe Oscar Beck when he's up.
Right.
And Wyatt has talked about how, he had Joe Pavelski looking out for him, but also Ty Dellandrea took him under his wing. And so now he's trying to sort of do the same for Logan Stankoven and Maverick Bork.
He's not ready for that responsibility.
He's just a child. He's like a teen father with these rookies. And it's like, he had these like old responsible fathers. And now he's a teen dad.
Yeah.
I know he's like 21, but it doesn't matter. He's still a teen dad.
Yeah, no, he doesn't have the skill sets for this.
He's trying his best, but, based on everything I could see from that video, they play ping pong. I think they just fold the ping pong table up and then they just set it up in the apartment haphazardly.
Yeah.
But they have ping pong competition. Like, that's what they have going for them. And, he's trying so hard, but like, he's just living on his own for the first time. And they need something. It just feels like there's this big division. You've got everybody else is like getting married and having babies and stuff. And then you've got like these new young kids and like they're all these, they're probably just like eating ramen. They don't know what to do with their lives. They're children.
Yeah.
The vibes are not right. Things don't feel right.
I will agree. I don't know why, but things do not feel right with that team.
A separate issue is that how you're only half a hockey fan?
Right.
Right now, it feels like the Dallas Stars are maybe about 60% of a hockey team.
Yeah, I would agree.
It just doesn't feel like 100% of the players are showing up 100% of the time.
I would agree.
Like the Thruple line is crushing it. Losing Tyler Seguin for the rest of the season is not going to be great.
Right.
Do you feel better about when, last year when one of them was out, it would really fuck with the other two? I feel a little bit better about that this year just because Mason Marchment has stepped up so much. I feel like he has like the will to keep carrying it. He's performing well regardless, Logan Stankoven's a tank. Like he just has endless energy. But there are some players that don't feel like they're giving it their all. It's like I mentioned before, there are some Flyers that will fully crash into walls and fall all over themselves trying to put the puck in the net. And a lot of the times it feels like the Stars just left their foot off the gas.
Yeah.
And for me, the most glaring example came up after the Vegas game. Some of the players did post-game interviews. And I think it was Mike Heika brought up that our road game record is really poor this year, especially compared to last year.
Yeah.
Last year, we were like the winningest road team.
Right.
And this year, our road record is terrible. And Jamie Benn said, yes, that's true. We really need to step up our road record. Jason Robertson shrugged and said, nothing we can do about that. And I wanted to punch that guy in the face.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been off the robo train since last year.
Same. And then I keep trying to like force myself to get back on because I'm like, well, maybe he's just having a bad time and maybe he's contributing in different ways. But like, what is that mentality? Like, it's so passive.
Yeah.
Like, nobody on the Florida Panthers would say anything like that.
No.
Like ever.
No.
They would never do that. And then this is what I wrote down in my notes, just so you know. I saw the Panthers described as relentless the other day. And nothing we can do about that is the opposite of relentless.
That is
It is relentful. It is full of relent.
Full of relent. Yeah. I hadn't seen that, but I can imagine him with his low energy and his just kind of,
Yeah, it really made me mad. And it really, I think that attitude felt like what I've been seeing on the ice and I haven't been able to verbalize.
Right.
And I wonder if it's just him with that attitude, but it feels like what I've seen on the ice from him.
Yeah.
And, I've been saying, well, he had an injury. He didn't get to do training camp. It's been slow, but maybe it's not the injury. Maybe it's the attitude.
Yeah. He might be more suited for a different team at this point.
Honestly, I wouldn't be mad about it.
Yeah.
And I know that's a very controversial take in the Dallas Stars community. I know he has had some really good seasons in the past. I'm sorry, I'm not as impressed with him as I used to be.
Yeah.
I don't think the attitude's great. He just doesn't feel invested to me. He is slow. He doesn't move his skates.
Yeah.
And he doesn't seem interested in moving his skates.
I do not disagree with any of this.
And I just worry that it's like spreading, He plays with Rope a lot. And
Yeah, he's also kind of looked kind of meh.
He has also looked kind of meh.
I mean, honestly, Hintz has too.
That is Rope.
We should cut that out, but I'll just leave that in.
I was going to say, I'm tempted to say you should cut that out, but then part of me also wants to say, please leave that in so I look smarter.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, it kind of goes back to what I've been saying about Pete DeBoer with his mentality of just like, don't get too high, don't get too low. I feel like maybe some people are interpreting that in the wrong way.
Right.
And that way of being like, well, I don't want to get too low about it, so I guess there's nothing I can do about it, and I'll just move on to the next game. And it's like, no, like you still should correct shit.
Yeah.
Like, please. Like the Panthers the other day were having a bad game, and Paul Maurice was like, I was so mad, I just didn't go in between the periods.
Right. Between second and third, he didn't go back.
Yeah. But he was like, because I knew that the team would be able to turn it around on their own, and it wouldn't be helpful for me to go in and be mad at them.
Right. He said, they're going to hear me say the thing I've said 1,000 times. He's like, I didn't think it would be helpful, and I had a lot of bad things to say.
And also, he knew that they would be able to pull it together on their own, and they did, it sounded like.
Yep.
And that is just so much trust, and it's great.
What a vibe, right? If you're in the room and you're like, oh, he usually comes back by now. Oh, he's not here. Okay. But, he's still not coming. Oh, we're almost done. He's not coming back at all. Wow.
Yeah, no, that is like psychological warfare in its own way. That is, oh no. Oh, we really made him mad this time.
Yeah.
And that's a guy who will curse you out on the bench. And then when the press asks you about it, it shrugs and says, I just thought they needed a little profanity in their lives, and I'm good at that.
Right.
So that's what I did. This time he was just like, you know what? It's not the playoffs. I don't need to give them profanity. It's not going to be helpful. We're a quarter of the way through the season. Let them figure it out. They will or they won't.
Yeah.
And then they did. And it was fine.
And I feel like Pete can get mad and angry, but I feel like he hasn't been, probably.
Everything just feels lackluster over there. And it's from the coaching, and it's going right down the ranks. And it's, Mason Marchment and like Matt Duchene and Logan Stankoven can't do it all by themselves, guys.
Nope.
Jake's been looking really good this year too.
Yeah.
But he can't do it. He was looking great in that game, and then he got cross-checked in the face, and then he couldn't really get it back together after that. And nobody was doing anything to protect him or to create offense.
Yeah. Well, I'm right there with you. I haven't enjoyed too many of their games.
It's frustrating because they should be good. There are so many good players. On paper, they look good, but there's something missing. I've been saying it all season, and now I just feel like it's the room guys being gone. And then really, I will show you that interview with Jason Robertson after this, because it made me so mad.
Yeah.
It made me so mad. Like, it made me so angry, like flames on the side of my face.
Right.
It was not okay. So,
you were like Madeline Kahn in Clue.
That was the reference I was making. Good catch.
See, I got it.
You did. Good job. At this point, if we get to the point where there's a Flyers game and a Stars game on, I might pick the Flyers game.
Well, I'd prefer that.
Yeah.
They're more fun to watch.
Yeah. They're at least fucking trying.
Most of the time. I mean, they have some bad games.
They do have some bad games, but like they don't have any quit in them. And
right.
Even John Tortorella thinks so. And if John Tortorella thinks so, I can co-sign on that.
Yeah.
The Stars, certainly many of the players have quit in them. It seems like, to me.
Yep, I'd agree.
One player in particular.
Yeah. I don't know. Jamie Benz looked sleepy this year too. Maybe, isn't his contract coming up?
This is the last year of his contract.
Yeah. I'm not that I do not think that any of these guys don't try. At the end of the day, they still want to win, but yeah, there can be that attitude underlying things that kind of pulls things down, I think.
Jamie Benn is at least scoring goals. I think Robo scored 1 or 2 goals in the last 14 games.
Yeah, no, he's not very good.
He's just not.
I mean, last year they were making him the face of the franchise, and I was confused why. I was like, why do they keep showing this guy? He's not doing anything interesting.
Yeah, and I know last year he at least worked on his defensive game and he was doing assists even when he wasn't scoring goals. But this year it feels like he's invisible, and now he's shrugging his shoulders and saying nothing we can do about that. And
yeah,
you know what? If there's nothing you can do about it, then fucking move on and bring in somebody who can, because I'm done.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dark times for Kate.
Dark times for Kate. Kate's on the downward spiral once again.
Once again.
It's like a really long slide.
It only took
really long, twisty slide.
It only took a week or two to be back where you're at.
I mean, I was kind of on the downward spiral last time too. So
yeah,
it just keeps going. And I know that this really wasn't the worst week. You know, we had 2 out of 4 losses and there were only 1 goal losses, but we're not playing well and we're not looking like we want it. We're like number 12 in the league right now.
Yeah.
You know, last year, this time, everyone's like, Dallas is a wagon. This year, everyone's like, Dallas who?
Yeah.
I mean, last year, everyone was like, Dallas is a wagon. And then they were like, Dallas who? Because they would immediately forget.
They'd immediately move on. Yeah.
You know, they're making it easy for people to forget about us right now. And I don't like that.
Right.
So.
Yeah. I don't know. By the end of this season, this could be a Flyers-Panthers household.
You know,
maybe a little Avs too if Wedgwood like gets called up past Georgiev.
Listen, I'm always going to be a Stars fan. Like the Stars are my one true love, and that's why I will be critical of them. And I will always watch them. And you know, even if I watch the Flyers game live, I'll still watch the Stars replay the next day. But when it comes to watching a live game with you, I'd rather watch a game that we're both going to enjoy.
Yeah.
And that I'm not going to be mad about.
Well, we can, you know, I don't know. The games are long. We, you know, I don't know. I find this hard to believe that the Stars are going to be playing and we're going to be watching something different. But
listen, I work a lot and I like having hockey on as background noise. So it's not a problem for me to put on a Stars game the next day while I'm working. So
there we go.
There you go. Well, that's going to be the end of regulation for this week's episode of Ice is Slippery. You can find us on both Tumblr and Instagram at Ice is Slippery Pod, where I post content whenever I remember. We're also on Twitter at Slippery Ice Pod. If, like Fred, you're afraid of social media, you can email us at iceisslipperypod@gmail.com, where we'd love to hear your spicy takes or get suggestions for future games. Until next week, stay out of the penalty box.